of owning a cafe, and other heroic deeds by Beware the Tristero. Chapter 147. Taken. By 5:30, he was out on his unofficially official morning patrol, sans his pro-hero costume. The look on his friends' faces when he'd put together a simple black boiler suit with all-weather boots and the customized version of Obero's goggles Nezu had helped him to make had been hilarious. His husband had tried to be supportive.
Shouta-kun, it's very functionally logical and so like you. Are you sure you don't want to try that form-fitting bodysuit I had made for you again? No? No, I'm kidding, I'm joking, I swear.
Atsuhiro slightly less so.
What did they mind of having a body like yours and handing it under this buggy monstrosity? I can't believe that you didn't think of any of my suggestions. And just because your utility belt is helpful doesn't mean it has to be so drab. You could have put your cow traps and eye drops in that design the fanny pack I showed you, you know?
Whilst Mirai had been intrigued. I think the concept of your capture weapon is fantastic, show. Would you mind if I have a look? So this special alloy power loader has built into it is what gives it a form of kinesthetic energy and tensile strength. It should be versatile, and it should help you to navigate the city at speed. Now, how long do you think it'll take for you to master it? I'm sure the study group will all want one too, once they see you using it as you've theorized. Then you'll have to start up an agency, just like young Katsuki predicted back when they were kids, won't you, dear Dad? Unlike an incredibly bemused Gran Torino, who tried his best to be gruff and grumpy, but he knew it came from a place of worry for his safety, their crotchety Sky Grandpa didn't want to show it, however. They all knew he had a soft spot for them and their wider community, Mimi-chan in particular.
What you need is a pair of booster boots like mine and maybe a gun of some kind full of tranquilizers. I mean, for heaven's sake, Gaki. You couldn't have picked anything more difficult to make, let alone master, could you? Oi, Toshi! You need to make him see reason before he gets his license and hits the streets, you know?
Whereas poor Nomori had been heartbroken. Sansa! We made you a pussycat uniform in black and gold. How could you choose that thing over such cat-based fannery? Snickering at the remember conversations they'd shared in after he'd made his debut as a racerhead, the eatery owner picked up his pace whilst rounding a street corner to head down the road, which featured the Neko Kaneko Youth Center and the frosted Irish Floristry and Ikebana School, his smile broadening. It had been fortunate that his work-study boss had stood by him and his uniform's designs, hadn't it? And now, just like so many pros before him, Fat Gum was a regular at the Noraneko. Working under him had been an excellent experience, too, and saved any of his friends and family members from feeling as though he was playing favorites. For such a laid-back, all-smiling guy, he put his whole heart into defending people and spread cheer wherever he went. That's why he'd convinced Tamaki to join them during their own first-year hero course studies, and between himself, Taishiro, and the few sidekicks he employed, they'd done a pretty great job of coaxing this shy, indigo-haired boy into a capable young man. That was one of the reasons why he hoped truly that a selection of his study group would approach their gummy Jizan when their time to complete work studies came, because sure, all of their other pro relatives were fantastic, but Fat Gum was a man of the people. He didn't particularly care about rankings or ratings or fame. He didn't tote body image as something essential to saving lives. He didn't care for politics or popularity. He just saw people in trouble and ran full tilt in that direction. He just wanted to do good. And that regardless of how proud he was of his husband and their friends' achievements. He'd much rather the kids focus on doing good for the masses as opposed for the media. Not that he resented his husband being in the limelight, of course, no. Because the All Might brand had done far more good than harm after all, and even though the Hero Commission insisted on giving his partner such an extortionate salary, his lover donated vast sums of it to his charity works. He was responsible for the opening of numerous specialist hospital wings around the country and beyond. He was one of UA's chief stakeholders, too.
And all of that good work, of course, just wouldn't be possible without the media building the man he loved so much into a symbol, would it? Rolling his eyes at the incredulity of it all, he looked both ways before crossing the virtually deserted road and prepared to loop back around to his base. It wasn't until the van pulled away from the curb to follow him around the next corner that he started to feel suspicious. He'd run this route 1,000 times or more since he'd moved back into this area, and after a quick check of the vehicles he recognized, his mind drew a blank when he spotted the faded insignia on the otherwise innocuous grayish van. It was probably nothing, but because it wouldn't do any harm to swap out of his usual routine, he decided to turn left when he'd usually go straight ahead, his hackles lowering when the van continued to drive down its original path. He was getting paranoid in his old age. Yipping his eyes, never being in shock, Shouta only just managed to dodge ragged jags of concrete as they protruded at speed from the ground, his body instantly curling into a backflip to avoid getting skewered, his trusty sneaker skidding him to a halt as the claw-like chunks of asphalt and cement slithered back into the ground. Scowling, he activated his quirk and looked around at the quiet road to spot his would-be attacker, his body loose and prepared to fight if necessary, but he couldn't see anyone. The residential area looked like it usually did, save for a child's toy sat by a gate which barred entry to one of the houses. Plus, the only sounds he could hear were those of birds chirping overhead. The road before him was just as empty and devoid of people as the one he'd run from, its form not disturbed in any way by its sudden spurting of spikes, either. Shit, did he just imagine that? Was he being attacked by someone with a hallucinatory quirk? And he couldn't do a damn thing about it if he couldn't see the person responsible. Getting out of the area was his best bet, wasn't it? Therefore, after a blink allowed him to reignite his quirk once more, the eatery owner moved to resume his run up the sidewalk when his ears picked up the sound of a vehicle speedily turning into the street, his teeth gritting when he spun to see the same van now powering towards him. You've got good reflexes, I'll give you that much. Frowning, the voice having come from his right, the eatery owner balked and narrowly avoided a hulking man who had materialized from fucking nowhere to swing a meaty fist his way. Scowling, he soon found himself having to split his attention between the bastard and the vehicle now pulling alongside them in the road. Fuck, he needed to get some distance between himself and... Women, got him already! Snarling, he managed to duck out of the way of the bruiser's swiping hand and the sharp ivory blade of something that had narrowly missed his face, but had sliced through his hair, severing his favorite bauble and setting his upward straining locks free. You stupid little fool! Deciding that he was through playing defense for the moment, Shouta plowed his fist as hard as he could into the broad brawler's diaphragm, his slender body able to slip around his coughing, growling assailant when... You forced me to touch the filthy ground. Twice now, Aizawa. Wheezing when the ground leapt up to ensconce him, its grasp tight and solidifying around his chest. The rookie pro couldn't hide his wince when a sharp pain bloomed in his shoulder and, worse still, covered his eyes. Grab his phone! Smash it! Everything had slowed down. Done! Wrap him up quickly. He was virtually immobile, and now that a sleep mask had been roughly shoved over the top of his face, he couldn't even make life difficult for the people abducting him. You may as well stop struggling, Aizawa. I struck her with my shorthand. You'll be moving like a snail for an hour. The people who'd hog-tied him and placed him on a soft surface that smelt like disinfectant with leather belts and buckles which were securing him in place, whilst the men, all quiet now, shifted to sit around him as the engine grumbled to life. Any witnesses? None. Let's go then. Pulled away from the curb and resumed its sedate, unsuspicious pace towards wherever the hell they were going. Fuck. This was bad. He knew that there were no CCTV cameras in this part of the district or any other kinds of monitoring technology, either domestic council-based, which meant that his friends in the police force would have little to go on when they realized he was missing. He was only glad that the kids hadn't been with him.
Hey, he sure is feisty, huh?
Keeping him under control is going to be a pain. Wagga, you should think about taking one of his legs or something. They could have been severely injured or worse. We'll see if we can cure him of his chronic case of heroism first. Small mercies. Removing his limbs is an option we can turn to if needed, though. At first, Nato hadn't been too put out when his papa didn't respond to the apology he sent him when he and his friends roused to proper consciousness at around 7:30. Knowing his younger father, he was probably busily cooking up a storm in the Noronako's kitchen, his found no doubt charging and out of the way. However, as he and the others bid farewell to Bakugo-san quietly, the pleasantly demure man waving them off at the door, he felt a little concerned. It was 8-7. His younger parent would never ignore him or any of them on purpose, would he?
You guys don't think that something's wrong, do you?
Sure, he tried to laugh it off, but
I mean, I'm just being paranoid, right?
it was strange that Shouta hadn't been online since the start of his run, wasn't it?
Naked, this is a cat that we're talking about, you know? I'm sure he's too busy planning mine and Toshi's birthday party to take any notice of his phone, that's all.
Denki supplied with a wink as he walked between himself and the Iris Air boy, who was also regarding his phone worriedly, his long legs setting a quicker pace towards the man and cafe they all adored so much, the electricity cruiser's arms having looped around their shoulders for a reassuring hug as they walked.
We're gonna drop the brook on his phone.
Eiichiro reasoned thoughtfully, his shoulders holding the majority of their sleepover bags for some extra weight training, alongside a sagely nodding Rikido, as their boot, sneaker, and sandal-clad feet plodded down the mostly empty streets under the building morning heat.
We've been trying to get her to upgrade that ancient thing he uses for actual years, haven't we?
He could be grooming the cats, kiddo.
Tsuyu reminded, her tongue sticking out a little while she hummed.
That's one of his favorite things to do, isn't it? Nah, maybe he's having a catnap with them. He's looked even more tired than usual since Toshiji left for Australia last week, kiddo.
I think you're onto something there. What if Toshiji is called and he's talking to him right now? I mean, he wouldn't show up on our app as being online if he was just chatting on his phone after all.
Shouta reasoned thoughtfully, his head cocking to the side when everyone around him continued to look pensive despite such an obvious answer no doubt being correct.
Yeah, maybe, but I think Nato and Toshi-kun are right. Something feels off to me. I don't know. Should we try calling Damini?
Ochago asked as they rounded the final corner of their 15-minute walk, her eyes flitting from the device she'd used to send the eatery owner another message. Their group chat was flooded with them now.
He and Tomini went out last night to Tokyo, didn't they? They might have stayed there overnight.
Izuku mused thoughtfully, his brows furrowing.
And we can't call Spinnerni or Kegoni or Rumini because they've been on patrol until 6.
He added, the messages that he'd been sending into their group chat going from sheepishly asking after Shoni to clearly, definitely worried.
Damini and Tomini would want us to call them.
Katsuki upped his fingers, already tapping away on his phone.
And besides, if they did stay in the capital, they'd be making their way home now anyway, wouldn't they?
He mused before putting his device on loudspeaker. Should he really hoped that they were all mother-henning over nothing?